Welcome to our channel, everyone. Today we're gonna dive into the shadowy depths, folklore, urban legends, and modern-day myths. We'll explore the famous creepypasta monster, the Rake, the creature that began tormenting the imagination of many Americans in the early 2000s. We'll explore stories around it and capture the thrill and mystery surrounding these creatures. While reading through the witness accounts, speculative theories, and eerie narratives, we will see what the supposed origins of this monster are, how it appears physically, and how people recall encountering it. So without any further delay, let us begin. Before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The chilling origins and evolution of the Rake. Like many other blood-curdling creepypasta characters, the Rake started as an online creative idea collaboration. Its exact origins can't be verified, but it is believed that a user on 4chan's B-board invited others to help bring the new monster to life with creative ideas for its appearance and behavior. In no time, multiple users had begun sharing their eerie versions of a horrifying creature, its appearance, and its behavior. The Rake went through many designs and name changes at the beginning. One of the most prevalent names was Operation Crawler. Here, it was described as standing about 6 feet tall, but usually hunched low, a humanoid figure with pale grayish skin. Apart from its two unnerving gazes and an extra eye at the center of the forehead, its entire face is a clean slate. It has no nose, and its small, tight mouth only opens when it feels threatened, releasing a chilling hinge and dropping all the way down to the neckline, revealing rows upon rows of dull, gross teeth. It was further described to be lurking in suburban areas, staring intensely at anyone who spots it. If left alone, it simply watches, wide-eyed and still, but get too close and its mouth stretches open, eyes widening in warning before it launches into an attack. As more creative descriptions of this creature crept in, it collectively began to be called the Rake. The Rake's origins are as mysterious as the creature itself. Some legends argue that it was once human, but twisted by some unknown force, mutating, and cursed with immortality. This theory, to some extent, could explain its humanoid form. However, others speculate that the Rake may be alien, a creature from another world or dimension, drawn to Earth by forces or instincts beyond our understanding. Another relatively less popular conspiracy theory among horror story writers pertains to Rake having been a cursed human soul, which, due to certain unexplained events or punishment, must have been banished from civilization and left to be trailing in the woods for eternity. Stories of the Rake date back hundreds of years, with some of the earliest supposed sightings recorded in the 1600s. This longevity suggests that the Rake is more than just an unexplained nightmare. It's something ancient, something sinister, and by all appearances, immortal. Adding to its unique mystique, the Rake is often rumored to have ties to the Slender Man, a character from the modern myth that shares the Rake's lurking, inhuman qualities. Together, they create a terrifying pair in internet folklore, feeding off fears of the unknown and of monsters hiding just out of sight. The Rake's creator's identity has never been revealed, yet its terrifying nature owes much to the influence of H.P. Lovecraft, whose tales of harrowing horrors and cosmic dread have continued to influence creators, writers, and readers for decades now. Its design could be said to have been inspired by Lovecraftian terror. The Rake's sinister personality. The Rake is not just a creature of mystery, but also malice. Its sadistic instincts become evident from its taking pleasure in stalking, torturing, and ultimately murdering its victims in the most gruesome, disturbing, and violent way possible. This creature is also a skilled predator, as it observes its victims, often nonchalant humans, from the shadows. Slowly, it lets its fear build in its victims, haunting them before finally launching a ruthless, unexpected attack. While the Rake's brutal nature dominates most accounts, there are also instances of deviations. On rare occasions, it has been seen simply roaming the wilderness, prancing through forests and secluded areas, almost as if it's unbothered by the onlookers, until of course someone dares to watch or photograph it. Spotting the Rake may seem like a harmless accident, but to the Rake, it's an invitation to hunt, and even if it did not kill the onlookers, those who had glimpsed it would be reeling in paranoia and fear for days to come. This sheer unpredictability of Rake's actions and behavior makes it even more terrifying. Whether it's watching from a distance, or stalking the unaware, the Rake's presence alone is enough to transform any encounter into a tormenting nightmare. Power of terror. What makes the Rake supernatural? Described by many as a misanthropic predator with no mercy or hesitation in killing anyone it considers an obstacle, its remarkable speed, strength, and stealth give it a terrifying advantage over humans, allowing it to strike and vanish without a trace. It moves swiftly and silently through the terrain, undetected, using its long, clawed fingers that resemble a rake, just like some lethal weapons that could shred through human flesh in seconds. Some claim the Rake is immune to any form of physical attack, as no attempt to injure or capture it has succeeded. The most disturbing accounts of the Rake. In 2006, the proclaimed eyewitnesses began collaborating and documenting their experience and research about the creature. Excerpts of this spotting were reported to date back to the 12th century, spanning 4 continents. Almost all the descriptions resonated with each other. A suicide note, 1964. As I prepare to take my life, I feel it necessary to assuage any guilt or pain I've introduced through this act. It's not the fault of anyone other than him. For once, I awoke and felt his presence, and once I awoke and saw his form. Once again, I awoke and heard his voice and looked into his eyes. I cannot sleep without fear of what I might next awake to experience. I cannot ever wake. Goodbye. Found in the same wooden box were 2 empty envelopes addressed to William and Rose, and 1 loose personal letter with no response. Dearest Lenny, I have prayed for you. He spoke your name. A journal entry, 1880. I have experienced the greatest terror. I have experienced the greatest terror. I have experienced the greatest terror. I see his eyes when I close mine. They are hollow, black. They saw me and pierced me. His wet hand. I will not sleep. His voice... A Mariner's Log, 1691. He came to me in my sleep. From the foot of my bed I felt a sensation. He took everything. We must return to England. We shall not come here again, at the request of the Rake. From a witness, 2006. 3 years ago, I had just returned from a trip to Niagara Falls with my family for the 4th of July. We were all very exhausted after a long day of driving, so my husband and I put the kids straight to bed and called it a night. At about 4 a.m., I woke up thinking my husband had gotten up to use the restroom. I used the moment to steal back the sheets, only to wake him in the process. I apologized and told him I thought he was out of bed. When he turned to face me, he gasped and pulled his feet up from the end of the bed so quickly that his knee almost knocked me out of the bed. He then grabbed me and said nothing. After adjusting to the dark for half a second, I was able to see what caused the strange reaction. At the foot of the bed, sitting and facing away from us, was what appeared to be a naked man or a large hairless dog of some sort. Its body position was disturbing and unnatural, as if it had been hit by a car or something. For some reason, I was not instantly frightened by it, but more concerned as to its condition. At this point, I was somewhat under the assumption that we were supposed to help him. My husband was peering over his arm and knee, tucked into the fetal position, occasionally glancing at me before returning to the creature. In a flurry of motion, it scrambled around the side of the bed and then crawled quickly in a flailing sort of way, right along the covers until it was less than a foot away from my husband's face. It was completely silent for about 30 seconds, probably closer to 5, but it seemed like a while, just looking at my husband. It then placed its hand on his knee and ran into the hallway leading to the kids' room. I screamed and ran for the light switch, planning to stop this thing before it hurt my children. When I got to the hallway, the light from the bedroom was enough to see it crouching and hunched over about 20 feet away. It turned around and looked directly at me, covered in blood. I flipped the switch on the wall and saw my daughter Clara. The creature ran down the stairs as my husband and I rushed to help our daughter. She was severely injured and spoke only once more in her short life. She said, "He is the Rake." My husband drove his car into a lake that night while rushing our daughter to the hospital. They did not survive. Being a small town, news spread quickly. The police were helpful at first, and the local newspaper also took a lot of interest. However, the story was never published, and the local television news never followed up either. For several months, my son Justin and I stayed in a hotel near my parents' house. After we decided to return home, I began looking for answers myself. I eventually located a man in the next town over who had a similar story. We got in contact and talked about our experiences. He knew of 2 other people in New York who had seen the creature we now referred to as the Rake. It took the 4 of us 2 solid years of hunting on the internet and writing letters to come up with a small collection of what we believed to be accounts of the Rake. None of them gave any details, history, or follow-up. One journal had an entry involving the creature in its first 3 pages, then never mentioned it again. A ship's log explained nothing of the encounter, saying only that they were told to leave by the Rake. That was the last entry in the log. However, there were many instances where the creature's visit was one of a series of visits with the same person. Multiple people, including my daughter, also mentioned being spoken to. This led us to wonder if the Rake had visited any of us before our last encounter. I set up a digital recorder near my bed and left it running all night for 2 weeks. I would tediously scan through the sounds of me rolling around in bed each day when I woke up. By the end of the second week, I was pretty used to the occasional sound of sleep, while blurring through the recording at 8 times the average speed. It still took almost an hour every day. On the first day of the 3rd week, I thought I heard something different. What I found was a shrill voice. It was the Rake. I can't listen to it long enough to even begin to transcribe it. I haven't let anyone listen to it yet. All I know is that I've heard it before, and now I believe that it spoke when it was sitting in front of my husband. I don't remember hearing anything at the time, but for some reason, the voice on the recorder immediately brings me back to that moment. The thoughts that must have gone through my daughter's head make me very upset. I have not seen the Rake since he ruined my life, but I know that he has been in my room room while I slept. I know and fear that one night I'll wake up to see him staring at me. Psychological impact. Why does the Rake haunt our nightmares? Many believe that Rake is more terrifying because the chances of him being real are a lot higher than other ghostly creatures that have been part of fiction and folklore. Fans claim that there are ample theories around Rake being an actual subspecies of humans that evolved, or maybe did not evolve altogether, and began dwelling underground in dark environments, only to come out for a hunt. This plausible argument also highlights the fact that the majority of the disappearances that happened in the US were centered around areas that had vast cave systems. There are also many videos of creatures described as similar to Rake that have been spotted in backwood environments. There even remains Native American folklore about the moon-eyed people. These people were said to live in the Appalachian Mountains, but were seen as unwanted alien intruders by the Native American population. The natives thus fought with the creature and retired it back to the caves or underground. What makes this theory even more spine-chilling is that only 5% of the ocean has been explored, and 90% of caves remain undiscovered. No country is completely explored. In fact, America, the most explored country, still has 60% of its caves yet to be discovered. We can't say with absolute certainty that there can't be creatures hidden in those caves and undiscovered parts of the ocean. Rake isn't a ghost that can fade away or use telekinesis to move things. He's just a very scary humanoid creature that might still very well exist, oblivious to us humans. Many in the US have claimed that the idea of stepping on this pale humanoid creature due to negligence is more frightening than actually spotting it. If one were to somehow step on it, it would just spring out of the lawn and strike within seconds. Once you get to learn about the Rake and see its image, while also reading the accounts of people who have witnessed it, there are ample chances that you will be engulfed in this eternal fear of waking up in your room at midnight and finding this harrowing creature standing over you. The Rake in other media. The Rake serves as the main antagonist in the horror video game of the same name. In the game, players take on the role of investigator and hunter Gordon Davis, who attempts to capture footage and evidence of the Rake and possibly even confront it directly. However, this task proves to be more challenging than anticipated, as the Rake has its own sinister agenda and leads Davis into darkness and insanity. In this portrayal, the Rake is depicted as feral yet intelligent, with the ability to lure and trap its hunter. Additionally, the game features a multiplayer mode that allows 2 or more unnamed hunters to assume similar roles. In this mode, the Rake relentlessly stalks the hunters as they try to fend it off using firearms and traps. The Rake also makes its appearance in the story known as Skinwalker, where it kills the grandfather of the narrator while the father of the said narrator survives. The narrator's dad and his father are out hunting one night for deer or coyotes. However, they come upon a brutalized animal carcass and they think it's something that they can take care of, so they track the blood until they find the creature who did all of that. The dad of the narrator says he had wished they had never found the Rake. When the narrator's grandfather tries to talk to the creature, assuming it to be some very sick human needing help, the Rake attacks the grandfather of the narrator and kills him. Despite the narrator's father's efforts to get it off, it's futile, and he at last rushes to their landlord and seeks shelter and manages to cut off the hand of the Rake before it's able to get in. Since the narrator's mother died, the father of the narrator went back into the forest in hopes of setting some old scores. In recent years, the Rake's character has been reinvented and presented in the Slenderverse, The Rake movie in 2018, and The Rake Roblox. The Rake further appeared as one of the main antagonists in The Rake vs. Dogman, where it battled the infamous Michigan Dogman. Marvelous verdict. Well, this was our explanation of the theories and origins of the monstrous alien creature that lurks in the nightmares of the faint-hearted, or could be looking at us from the woods, creeping deep inside, waiting to hunt at the right moment. Tell us in the comments section what you think about this creepypasta creature, or any of the theories that you think could further elaborate on its existence and purpose. We'll see you in another marvelous video. If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.